one of my favorite topics. I hope you'll see that as we go through. I'm kind of passionate about rendering and visualizing and all the work that I do, but I work with the factory utilities a lot. So you're going to see something today that I think is really it's a great addition to what we currently have with the factory utilities. A little bit about me real quickly. I've been working with IMAGINiT Technologies for pardon me, about 22 years now. And prior to that, I worked at Newport News Shipbuilding as a ship fitter. And early on in my career with IMAGINiT, I began working directly with Autodesk and the factory utilities. And I've been working a lot. It's really been dominating my life for the past 12 years. So I work a lot with the factory layout solutions from Autodesk. And I have to tell you, in the past few years, we haven't seen a lot of new innovative things from Autodesk in the factory layout area. But I'm really excited to see, for you guys to see some of the visualization tools that we have available now with TwinMotion and some of the things that we have to show you. So that's enough about me. Our webcast, we really have 4 topics for our agenda today. We want to talk about visualization capabilities inside Autodesk's product design and manufacturing collection. We certainly want to utilize those. They are important. We want to know that they're there, but we want to determine the level of visualization needed for whatever proposal, whatever visualization project you have. We want to determine the level that you need to go to and what would be the best tool to suit that. And then we're going to talk about augmenting the factory design utility workflow, adding something new to it for specifically high-end visualizations. And we want to extend the visualization capabilities of the product design and manufacturing collection with the TwinMotion tool made by Epic Games. That's really going to be the main tool that's introduced today. But I think it's important that we start at the beginning of our conversation. But before I go any further, I mentioned how passionate I am about the topic that we're going to cover today. I render all the time. I don't think a project is complete until I make a pretty picture out of it and either post it to Facebook or share it with people I work with or just keep it in my library portfolio. So I love rendering. I taught an AU class on rendering about 4 years ago. And it's one of my favorite topics. So this is just a thrill for me when I get a new render tool to share it with the world. And specifically, you're going to see today how well it dovetails in with what we currently do with the factory utilities. So kind of a happy camper here. So I mentioned before, I want to talk about what's in the Autodesk Product Design and Manufacturing Collection. It's so funny. Every tool in the collection seems to render, and it almost gets frustrating as a user because I can render in AutoCAD, I can render in Inventor, I can render in Navisworks, I have 3D Studio. Why am I not rendering in that? You know, at one point in time, all right, all of these tools were considered the premier solution for design and visualization. Each of them had their own little niche in time. I was talking with Lori before we started today, and many people are shocked to know how old AutoCAD is. AutoCAD's closing in on a 40-year-old application, and I always joke around with I teach AutoCAD still to this day, and still an absolutely brilliant tool. But I teach a lot of the young students today. I ask them, how much older is AutoCAD than you are? It's been around for quite a while. Which is older, AutoCAD or Windows? Or which is older, AutoCAD or the mouse on your desktop? AutoCAD's been around for quite a while, and it has a rendering environment. I think it has probably the premier original rendering environment. Inventor. Let's talk about AutoCAD specifically here. I mentioned it has the premier rendering environment, and for a number of decades, it's been able to do 3D work. And it has, it supports 3D data, and you can absolutely render from that. A lot of commands to be involved with the render inside of AutoCAD, but you have visual styles now, and you can do some really nice things. And I mentioned, I think it's, it's the original render environment. But traditionally, I think all of us, we think of AutoCAD as really a 2D application, but it's very easy to forget that AutoCAD's, it was groundbreaking, bringing its 3D capabilities to designers around the world. So it has a very nice render environment. I will be honest with you. I don't render very much in AutoCAD. I do take screenshots from it for presentations and things like that, but that's about it. Then I come to my beloved Inventor. I'm an inventor. I'm a mechanical application expert with IMAGINiT, and I use Inventor all the time. And I mentioned I'm in the factory utilities almost every day of the week, and love putting factory layouts together. And Inventor has a rendering environment, has an environment called Inventor Studio. And I think by far, as far as just getting a render out, specifically if I'm working in Inventor, by far the easiest way to render is inside of Inventor Studio. It's really good for, I think, very high quality static graphics. If it's just a pretty picture you're after, Inventor Studio is great. If you want basic quality animations, you want to see things moving and things like that, it works very well at a basic quality. All right, but if you want high-end visualizations, you're going to have to sit and let this thing cook for days or weeks at a time. It's kind of frustrating. It can do it. It just takes quite a while. And here's an example of, this is a static image, just a couple of minutes worth of work inside of Inventor. I was working in there automatically. I just hit the render button. It looks great. Fantastic. A lot of times when I generate presentations from Inventor, if you ever see me give a presentation, or if you ever tune into like my YouTube channel, or look me up on Instagram, 3D all day, every day, that's me. You will see, movies of the work I'm doing, but what you're actually seeing is a bunch of static images. And I'm just using the Ken Burns, shift and pan tricks to keep the images moving as I'm going through. So you can get a lot of high-end visualization work from Inventor Studio. But what you're seeing here up on the screen is just, a list of static graphics that were rendered in the application. And then I use Camtasia, but whatever video editing tool you have will add the animations to the imagery and let you go from one to the other very nicely. And it works very good for visualizing your facility. But again, what you're seeing is just 2D images or static rendered images there. Navisworks. We talked about AutoCAD. We talked about Navisworks. Navisworks, well, let's face it, in the factory design utility workflow, Navisworks is kind of the central hub for your project visualization. Early on in your process, right? You're stuck in AutoCAD and Inventor, and you're laying out the factory. You're building it in 3D. But if you ever want to look at it all at the same time, chances are you're going to end up in Navisworks. Navisworks is traditionally where we set up. I always call it desktop VR, because I can walk around and I can see real quickly what things are looking like, and I can explore, and we call them digital mock-ups that, I could bring in hundreds of files together, and I can animate objects. I can make things move in Navisworks, and I can test certain material handling scenarios in Navisworks. Works with all kinds of CAD data. All right. I like to say, if it's 3D, you can put it in Navisworks. Clash detection. All right. Great tool for that. So Navisworks is really critical. I mentioned it's the central hub for your project visualization. It does have, all right, all the way at the back, we hardly ever mention it. It does have rendering. There is a full-blown rendering environment in Navisworks. And one of my favorite things that it does is it can generate static VR imagery, virtual reality imagery. Now, I say that it's a stereogram. I will talk about that. But let me let me just explore that idea with you here. So Navisworks, when I talk about desktop VR, all right, it's just, forget the goggles and the hand controllers and all of that. You're looking at a screen, but you can immerse yourself in your assembly, in your layout. You can step into it. You can walk around. An example of immersion is a project that I did. I've done this for several years. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I support indirectly the first robotics competition, where all the high schools that have robotic teams come together around the nation and they compete with their robots. And what you're looking at is a project that we put together. We don't support the students directly, but we go to the events and we set up a booth because they often use fusion and the inventor technology to create their robots. So we're there just as a vendor and to support this community. So what we do is we like to set up a little test for the students each year. We set them on top of an aircraft carrier. Newport News Shipbuilding is the primary sponsor in my area. I live in Hampton, Virginia, and I worked at Newport News Shipbuilding. So we set up an aircraft carrier with a bunch of robots, and we just go around the internet and we find all these robots. We put them on the deck, and then we put the students in a little, kind of makeshift VR headset. I know this is Google Cardboard, and Google Cardboard is really pretty old at this point, but we use cell phones and we give them little goggles, and that we sit them right in that spot. They can't move, but they can look around and be in that VR environment. And we challenge them to name all the robots in the scene. And it's kind of sneaky. There's a couple of old robots in there from like the 60s. And so there's a couple of them in there we know that they're not going to get, but it challenges them every year. And when we talk about VR, we talk about it. If you have not put on the goggles, okay, then you don't know what we're talking about. But I'm talking about young people and old people. Once you see what you can experience in VR, you are changed. It's like your world broadens, and all of a sudden there are amazing possibilities. So VR can do these stereo panorama things that you can look at on your cell phone and with Google Cardboard, or some kind of VR viewer that you can use your cell phone with. It's kind of old technology at the moment, but it does work, and it's highly portable, and we can broadcast what you're seeing on the screen. Works really good. But as far as the product design and manufacturing collection goes, this is honestly as close to VR as we can get. And I think, from my perspective, I have been promised VR and walking through a virtual reality of a factory. I've almost been promised that for years from Autodesk. We just never have gotten there. So Navisworks gets us fairly close. And then we have 3D Studio. Now, what you're going to see up on the screen is Autodesk's probably last attempt at, this is their answer to high-end visualization in the product design manufacturing collection. And they utilize 3D Studio. And there are some really neat effects that they have in here, which are amazing. This video you're looking at is 2 years old, 2020. This was released. A couple of things I like in this: you see the objects coming up out of the floor, matching their footprint. You see the robots start picking up stuff and simulating the motion of the robot arms. You see people, all right, start walking around, and you see forklifts driving around. The people are the really key thing that got me. If you're a 3D Studio expert, you might look at that and think, wow, that's actually pretty primitive. If you're a brand new to visualization, you might look at this and this is amazing. There's a lot of things in here that AutoCAD can't do, and Navisworks can't do, and Inventor can't do. So 3D Studio becomes kind of the end all. I like to say I consider it the career path to this process, because if you're going to use 3D Studio, you have to learn a lot. 3D Studio is still viable. There's a Netflix show, I believe, Love, Death, and Robots, something like that. And I know, I just watched a video the other day that one of the segments of that show was completely produced in 3D Studio. This is considered old technology now in the industry of movie making, but it's still absolutely valid. People are making blockbuster movies with this technology. But a lot of the keywords you look for, special effects, all right? If you want to see things burn and fire and explosions and melting and people walking around, you typically would think of 3D Studio. So it depends on what level of, visualization do you require for your particular project. So that's our next goal here. Our next topic is how do you tell? All right. I mentioned before, if you got static renders, you got animations, you have shading options. Goodness sakes, there's a ton of shading options. I want simple shading, or do I want complex ray tracing? You could go all the way to storyboarding, all right? And you could consider audio narration for a project and background music. Or you could take it to that immersive level of VR. At the end, if you look down at the bottom of the screen here, as with most business decisions, you must balance your visualization project based on your potential return on investment. Now, that return on investment, that's unique to you. The upper image you see here is a wastewater treatment plant that I worked on. I worked on a project for a customer. That was a $300 million proposal to a municipality to build this wastewater treatment plant. And I was told numerous times that, these kind of visualizations are what gets in front of the board. This is what gets in front of the city councils. This is what gets in front of all the people who do not understand what this wastewater treatment plant is all about. So, of course, it needs to be 3D and animated, and that particular one has graphics on top of it that combine and tell the overall story of what the proposal is. The one down on the right is a traditional factory layout. This was actually sponsored. This was a sponsored project by Autodesk. And it was just, a bunch of high resolution images of different factory layouts, different factory components. And it was to support the actual factory design suite. There's actually some imagery in here that if you look at the box, the old box art of factory design utilities, some of that stuff was taken directly from the box art and is still used by Autodesk to this day. But the return on investment, how much time and effort do you need to spend? For $300 million, I'm gonna take a good swing at this. And I have to tell you, I did that project in Navisworks, and I'm kind of embarrassed now looking at what I can do in TwinMotion. I really wish I had TwinMotion back then. I could have done such a better job. But at the time, that was as good and as effective of a way as I had to tell the story. So again, thinking about the things that you need to determine to figure out, maybe what tool I need to use or to what level. Here are some things to consider, all right, when you're looking at a visualization project. The complexity of your 3D model, all right? The more complex it is, usually you start to whittle down. Like, for instance, if it's a really highly complex design, I'm going to end up in Navisworks because Navisworks just has no upper limit. I can put as much information in there as I can, and I can generate pretty good quality renders from Navisworks. But if it's, medium complexity, Inventor is on the table. I can do it in there if I need to. Render time. All right. I mentioned those animations. If it takes you, 10 minutes to render one frame of a video, one cell, and you want 30 frames per second, and your video is 20 seconds long, your render time's just going to grow exponentially. And certain tools don't have cloud rendering, so Inventor doesn't render in the cloud. Navisworks can, and I believe 3D Studio can. So those tools have a way to offload renders to the cloud to let the cloud render it. But that costs a little bit. Stuff you want to think about. Graphics, all right? None of our tools I mentioned in this, none of the Autodesk product design manufacturing collections really have a nice way to do graphical work and overlay that. So you might need some other tools. I mentioned I use Camtasia a lot. A lot of people use Adobe products for their imagery and some of their graphics that they overlay on top of the 3D model. Your video editing tools I mentioned, you can have a high-end video editing software package. The product design manufacturing collection does not have a video editing package. I use Camtasia, it's my favorite, but there are plenty of others out there. And again, I'll go back to that return on investment. At the end of the day, you need to analyze how much is it going to be worth me to win this bid, and also how much is it going to cost me if I lose this bid. That return on investment works both ways. So you want to be careful about that. The thing that I'm going to highlight on this image here is that immersive level at the bottom, okay? We talked about high-end realistic animation. Right now, if you're in the product design manufacturing collection, the high end is going to be 3ds Max. But for immersive VR, I've just got a question mark there. The product design manufacturing collection really doesn't have that. And it's certainly, if it does, it's not a direct, easy path to it. So our next topic is, okay, I want to augment my current workflow to include high-end visualizations. Now, I'm a factory design utility expert. I use it all the time. I love that tool. And that tool, the factory design utilities, for building and modeling your layout relies on 3 tools. It relies on AutoCAD for 2D space and planning. It relies on Inventor. I think I use a lot of it. I use probably more Inventor than anything else. I put the 3D models of the layout pieces together. And then Navisworks. Navisworks is where I put everything, all of it together, all at once. Navisworks holds the entire project. And usually, honestly, in my life to this point, Navisworks is usually where I generate my graphics from, because everything's in Navisworks at the end of the day, and Navisworks has a nice video generation capability, quite useful, and that's where I generate most of my animations and most of my visualizations to this point. But here comes this tool, TwinMotion. All right, we'll talk more about this on our next slide, but to get from Navisworks to TwinMotion, you just simply export FBX. Navisworks actually doesn't export very much. It's a visualization experience. But one of the things it generates is an FBX file, and this is a perfect file to feed into the TwinMotion application I'm going to share with you. So what is TwinMotion? All right, TwinMotion is a tool that was created by Epic Games. This, I swear, the first time I heard this, I started to shake my head. You got to be kidding me. I play Fortnite with my nephews. I'm horrible at it, but I have 3 nephews that love to play it, and they live down in Florida, and this is my chance to be Uncle Rusty and to just play around with them. And my little brother plays with us, his kids, and we have all kinds of arguments, and we have a lot of fun playing this game. Probably one of the most popular games in the world at the moment, but it's created by Epic Games. So I have an Epic Games account because I like to play Fortnite with my nephews. So here comes this tool, and this tool, in all honesty, it's got an architectural slant to it. The idea is it's an architecturally oriented application specifically designed to visualize the digital twin of your architectural project. But that's the neat thing about the factory design aspect of the product design manufacturing collection, is it does lean towards the architectural space. So it fits perfectly with what we do in our current workflows, to be able to take our factory and visualize it with TwinMotion. That digital twin, they're using it simply in terms of it's a way for you to visualize your digital environment. I will tell you, you can go right now up to Epic Games, get your account, and you can download TwinMotion and start using it right now for free. It is very affordable. Your licensing, if you do pursue this and you want a license, your license only grants you the ability to export the high-end visualization files. It actually does let you export low-res imagery for free. But if you want to try this today and you playing Fortnite like I am and you have an Epic Games account, then you can go download it. Please, no one get fired, because you're playing Fortnite at the office. That's not what I'm saying. But it's an amazing tool, and I have to tell you, the graphics inside of these video games they have far surpassed what we can do inside of our design software, and it's been that way for years. So you're using some of the most state-of-the-art visualization tools that are available on the planet to visualize your facility now. When I say very affordable, I'm not going to quote you a price. I can't. You want to contact your IMAGINiT account representative. We can specifically get you pricing for multiple licenses, and I'll cover that that's my next slide. But it puts at your hands textures, materials, 3D assets that you can easily add to your project. Here's the official links that you'll see up on our website. I just copy and pasted them into this presentation. It's very intuitive, very easy to use, very simple to pick up and use, built upon that Unreal Engine that you see in most video games. It adds sounds and moving humans and characters and all kinds of vegetation that you can add to your design, all kinds of amazing effects. And when I say it's easy to do, I'm going to show you in just a minute. We're going to hop in there and show you this process. Just a couple of clicks and you're ready to go to generate imagery like this. The image, that video you just saw right there, took about 5 to 10 minutes to make. From the time I imported and started my TwinMotion project to handing that image off to somebody, it's about a 5 to 10 minute process. So it does very, very good work and produces good quality imagery right out of the box. Of course, if I wanted to go and do a super high-end render or ray trace on this, it could take a little longer, but the imagery that comes out by default is just amazing. But as a reseller of Epic Games TwinMotion software, IMAGINiT, our company, provides clients with value-added resources, tips and tricks, training, and the ability to purchase multiple licenses. So we are in partnership with Epic Games in bringing this solution to the world. So I'm going to start my demonstration process here, and I have to tell you the demo begins where Navisworks traditionally leaves off. In the traditional workflow for the factory design utilities, usually everything ends up in Navisworks for the final visualization. Well, I'm going to start here. I'm not going to open up Navisworks for this, but all I would do to start this process is to go to the Output tab in Navisworks and export an FBX. Now, there's a few little caveats here. I'll talk about those as I get into it, but for the most part, I'm just going to use this right out of the box without any changes, without any tweaking to it whatsoever. So I am going to pick up here where I've just exported my Navisworks file from as an FBX. And by the way, exporting this factory layout from Navisworks was about 10 seconds of time. So I'm going to minimize my PowerPoint, and I want to get into my TwinMotion. Actually, let me close that. Sorry about all that. There we go. Here's TwinMotion. I'm going to close my library for just a minute. So TwinMotion it's really set up to get started right away. They give you this nice little environment with the city around there, and trust me, you can change that. You can make it mountains, and you can get rid of the mountains and just make a plain background. You can put stars in the sky, and it can be cloudy. It's very, very nice and wonderful to do that. You can make it snow if you want. Really neat, really cool stuff. But our demonstration here starts off by importing data. So I'm going to import geometry. I'm going to click Open and just take a quick second and look at what you can import. FBX is right up at the front, but OBJ is a big one. All right. DXF. All right. There's other ones in here. I see 3DS is in here. SKP for SketchUp, WRL and PLY, a lot of different typical file formats. However, I don't see Inventor, I don't see DWG, but I do see that FBX, and I know that's a very easy one for me to get from Navisworks. So this is the factory training class. If you ever come from my factory design class, this is the data set we use for the factory design training material. Factory design is Z up, but if you're using an Inventor model, you might use Y up here, but it does honor X or Z up, or I'm sorry, Y or Z up. So this is the import. This is probably the longest wait you'll have in the whole process. And you're seeing this live, so I'm not going to hide anything from you here. So here is my factory in TwinMotion. Now, it's actually neat how you navigate. I can't show you this, but I'm navigating using my ASWD keys, the same keys I would use playing a video game for Fortnite. So I walk in this just like I would inside of a typical video game. It already looks good. The shadows and the ambient textures that are applied automatically, they match, I think, very, very well what was in my Navisworks file. So that stuff came over. All my textures came over just fine. But I want to augment them and show you what we can do. So that's one of the big features here is your material library. So I have things like glass. So every time I do a factory project, I have always put glass on the roof. And I don't know why I always do this blue tinted glass. Well, there's a blue tinted glass here. I can drop it right onto my glass roof. And now I can see very easily right in. And then adjust the shadows and everything else in the entire design, which is, I think, really amazing. If I go back to my library, it's a very vast library as far as materials and things that you can add to the file. But I'm going to type in a search here for roof. And I'm going to get some roofing materials. And I like this one right here. So I'm just going to add that to my roof. And on this particular one, for the scale right here, I'm going to change my rotation to 90. So I want my roof to run that way, and then I can drag the roof here and put it on the front of the building as well. There we go. It's looking pretty good. Let's see. Let's look in our library. Let's look for bricks. All right. Get tons of them, just tons of bricks. I like this cinder block. It's very close to the yellow color that I used originally, so I'm just going to make a cinder block building here. But that's as easy as it is to drag and drop textures. Now, it does do it across the tool. So, for instance, this blue clear is a little bit different than the blue clear that was in the roof. So I could come in here because it's a different texture from Navisworks. I could come in and add it separately. But there we go. Can add that. And that'll get everywhere that material was used, we'll get that new texture. All right, so let's come on down here and look around. Now you can change the speed at which you walk. There's a little eyeball up here, and I can come over here to the speedometer. And right now I just want to walk. So now I can walk nice and slowly. I want to look in this particular area right here. I want to turn the lights on. I use one common color for the discs on all my lights. Anytime I try to simulate a lighting fixture, I've always used this same color. So I can go back to my library and I can come down here. They have something called neons. And it's just a matter of dragging that over and putting it onto the light and turning the lights on. It doesn't emit light. There are tools that you can use to emit light, but with my skylights on, everything looks pretty good. Now, I loved, in the 3D Studio example, I loved the characters walking around. And that is something that even in 3D Studio, I think if you try to do it yourself, is pretty complex to do. But here, there's tons of 3D assets available to you. One of them is animated people. And I was so amazed at this. I would not be talking with you now if they didn't have factory workers, people with hard hats. So I can just drag a person in and stand him there, and that guy's just going to sit there and look around like he's got nothing to do. And it's very neat. There's a color palette for people. You can go in and change the color of their clothes, and I can make him dance. All right, you can sit there and keep him dancing around. And there's all kinds of different aspects to what you can do. I don't know about you, but in Fortnite, it's one of my favorite things to do is make the characters dance while you're fighting somebody else. But I can make them walk around very, very easily. And I'll show you some of that here in a minute with cars. We'll actually add some cars to our scene. But let me change my speed back. I'll get on the bicycle now. And I'm going to go back here. And I want to put somebody else up here in this area. So let's grab another worker. And notice how they automatically land on the ground of the model that you have. And I want to give this guy something to do. So we're going to make him a worker. And there's all kinds of worker animations, but we're going to have him reading a plan. All right. So putting real people in context of your situations gives it just a great visualization, a great stab of reality. I wanted to show you adding paths. So I'm going to start. Let me see if I can get this up here. There you go. I'm going to go back over here, and there's all kinds of things we can add to the scene, but I'm going to start a path, a vehicle path. And it's a simple little pen. I want to start here, and I'm going to change my view all the way down here. And there you go. So now I've got cars driving on the road in front of my design. And it's really nice the way this is laid out. I can come in and that vehicle path, I can copy that and I can paste it. So good old copy paste. And that means I can, pull this over here and rotate it. There we go. Anything I can do to add the realism. And listen, there are ways that you can do custom paths with forklifts. I have not delved all the way into this tool to find all of that, but I know it's absolutely possible. There's a great resource online for TwinMotion. That's YouTube. There's all kinds of TwinMotion YouTube videos out there, just people doing just amazing things with this tool. And the support for it is just incredible. Let me see. Let me change my speeds again here. Let's get back on the bike. And I want to share with you some of the things that, in the past. All right. So listen, you can make fun of my inventor trees, but a long time ago, I wanted trees and shrubbery around my building. And this is a big deal for me. The data set you're looking at has been used for factory design utilities for like 12 years. And I built this data set, and I wanted to have some trees and a pond. I had to simulate a civil design here. And of course, in my lifetime, trying to model water has always been impossible. Inventors, there's just no way to do this stuff. This is just crazy. You can come in and you can go to the water category and we'll just drag some water and place it there. And look at the reflections, and everything just looks great. On top of that, there's vegetation. So trees, people call them the Dr. Seuss trees, my Dr. Seuss trees. Don't laugh at that, but look at this. Just drag in a tree, drop it off, spin it around, and there you go. And I absolutely love flying through the trees. It's just a good, neat little effect when I'm coming around and looking at this facility. And again, the only thing I have to compare this to inside of the Autodesk Product Design Manufacturing Collection is Navisworks. It's the only thing that even comes close to this. Navisworks, all right, what do I use Navisworks for as far as visualization? Well, videos, imagery, things of that nature. So let's look at what you can do as far as how long it would take you to get a movie out of this. All right, so there's our dancing guy right here. Let's do this. Let's start up here. I'm going to go up here I'm in a drone, I guess, at this point in time, but I'll get to a good establishment area. So, you know, you might want a video or an image of this. Well, over here you can generate images, panoramic images, videos, presentations. You'll talk about those in a minute. But to do an image, you just click the image button and click plus, and what you see on the screen becomes your image. And there's a little more option here. You can come in and talk about the lighting and the locations and things of that nature to make it, you know, the format as high resolution as you want it to be. But going back to video, right? I want to do a video. So I'm going to do a new video, and we'll start here. This is the opening scene in my video. So let's come down here and we'll establish a secondary scene or viewpoint, and then I'll come in here and I'll turn around and let's get over here beside this guy, and let's say this is my third scene. You're just establishing these viewpoints, and there's your video. I could click on it and tell it how many seconds I need that to play, and then I'm ready to export this out. Now, the export would just use the default graphics that you see here, which are really, really good. I think better than what I would see in typical Inventor or Navisworks by default. There is options to turn on full ray tracing. So, of course, that's going to take a lot longer for you to generate your imagery. But if I were to go here and export, I could export my images. I could come in and export my movie. And then I could click Start Export. I think you'd be looking to do this about 5 minutes to maybe 6 minutes to generate the image and the movie and be ready to take it to your customer. Now, on this page, I do want to bring up this idea that you also have what are called presentations. Now, presentations can either run on your computer, like you're going to a trade show, and you're going to hook up your computer to a video wall, or a projector, or a television. And of course, you want to run everything on your local machine. The cloud, this early access for the cloud, allows you to put your presentations online. So it's actually possible for me to export this presentation. I gotta get out of this mode here, sorry. It'd be possible for me to, let's see if I get that one selected. It'd be possible for me to add these to the presentation and then publish this to the cloud and send it directly to my customer so that they could view this on their cell phone, they could view this on their computer, and they could have the interactive walk around possibility, that the same capabilities that I have here. Let me hop back into PowerPoint for a minute. And I mentioned before imagery, all right? That stuff right there is very good. Could be better. I'm just looking at my grass. I still have my fake trees in the background, but the images look good. The videos, these videos look fantastic. You've seen this video already, so I'm not going to let it play, but this, what you're looking at, again, took about 10 minutes to generate. So there's my dancing guy, and everything's ready to go here. So a video is great. I'm talking to you today via PowerPoint, so I'm relying quite heavily on video today. But it didn't take that long to get this stuff put together. How about this? TwinMotion supports point clouds. Many of you have a reality capture element to your design. I need to put a factory layout inside of an existing building. TwinMotion already supports point clouds. They're integrated, so you can add reality capture data to your scenes, and you can actually see your 3D models in context of the point clouds, just like the factory workflow. This dovetails perfectly with our existing factory workflow. I will say this, it doesn't include recap. I wish, hopefully in the future, the recap format would be honored. That's the only knock I would have against this. I had to make this an E57 from recap and to get it in here. But still, I made it work just fine. So that's something I thought was really an important aspect of TwinMotion, that it fully supports most of the elements that you're going to see. I didn't show you this, but if you had the VR goggles, all right, if you got your VR goggles hooked up to your computer, you just click the VR button and you're ready to go. The same exact file that I have here, you could go in and look at this inside of VR. This is the QR code up here. If you got your cell phones out, and I'll just give you a second or so, but if you want to look at this scene on your cell phone, grab that QR code. And it takes a few seconds to load, so I don't want anybody, it's not instantaneous. There's a lot of data that's got to go back and forth. But I want you to know that this is how easy it is for me to share a project with an end user. Remember the little robotic project I mentioned earlier in the presentation. That's a very dear project to me. And when I got to TwinMotion, I wanted to know, could it handle? I'll be honest, that's one of the largest assemblies I've ever really put together. I wanted to know, could TwinMotion handle this type of size of scene? So I set out to try to break it. I wanted to break TwinMotion. Here's another QR code if you just now got your phones out. If you want to stand on the deck and identify the robots, this is the scene you could download. But this image, this starts off underwater. So what you're seeing is an underwater view. Notice the water come off the camera lens when I come up. That's all automatic. The tool does this for you automatically. But this is that same scenario, all done in TwinMotion now, where I brought in the aircraft carrier and I brought in several robots that I missed the first time I did this. You know, all the kids would come in and say, "Where's Mechagodzilla? You forgot Mechagodzilla." Well, there's Mechagodzilla out there in the water, and but all this seamless flying around, and I hope you guys understand. If you're looking at this on the webinar, I'm hoping that it's coming to you in it might be a little jagged or a little jittery, but on my end, it's perfectly smooth. But again, we put the kids here on the deck of the aircraft carrier and we tell them to name all these robots. And some of them they honestly shouldn't know, like RoboCop or stuff like that. But it's amazing these kids know 90% of these robots today. It's just a really cool effect. So here is that, spin around panoramic view that you'd see. You can animate like the lights in the Cylon's eyes, and you can make things glow. That's another great feature of TwinMotion. But you can also get high-end imagery where you have depth of field automatically added to your images, so things will blur in the background automatically. You don't have to know what those settings are for all of this. So TwinMotion was a champ with this project, held all of this data. So honestly, I threw two of the largest assemblies I have at TwinMotion, and it handled it without any issue whatsoever. So I'd encourage you to check out these links. I've asked Lori to add those links to the chat in case you don't have your phone or you want to check these out on your computer. The links to those presentations are in your chat. So if you'd like to pursue that and look and see about this, try it out for yourself. I really would encourage you to do that. To finish up, all right, what did we talk about today? There's no doubt about it. This is a TwinMotion centric presentation, and TwinMotion might be a brand new term for you. You've been an IMAGINiT customer for quite a while, and this TwinMotion tool, you might have questions about it. If you have questions, I would encourage you to get with your account manager or contact IMAGINiT directly, and we can get you examples of TwinMotion. We can get you some help in understanding what the tool is. We can have a detailed demo of it and work with you to maybe see what your stuff would look like inside of TwinMotion. But of course, we need you to contact us. Get in contact with us. Ask the questions so that we can initiate the support that you need to integrate this tool into your current workflow. I certainly want to thank everyone for being here. Right at about our 50-minute mark here. So I want to thank you for your time, and I really would encourage you to check those links out. I really would encourage you to go out and download TwinMotion, get an account at Epic Games and get it on your system, and and check it out for yourself. I think you'll see it's got a very easy path to ownership. And I think all of you, if you're in this factory layout, you're ready to feed the beast. You're ready to feed it and to make use of it right now. So I am going to open it up for questions at this point.